So hey guys, some of you guys might be wondering why does Phoenix hate stun so much? Well, eh, all I'm facing is generally just stun. It's just awful. So we just go through my last 10. How many do you think is stun? Oh, I see. Blue. Yeah, blue. Not quite stun, but it used to be stun. So I'll give this like a half point, honestly. But all right, maybe blue doesn't count. All right, go one before this. Some 60 card pile that makes no sense, you know, it's just one of these Isolde piles, sure. That's an Isolde pile. Oh, look, that ass just runic stun. Okay. And then we'll go back. Is it this one? Oh. Uh, Shtira stun. Wild, isn't it? Hmm. Why are they even playing Heavy Storm? This looks so ill. Okay. And then we go back here. This is just apparently Horus Ubel. What? Why though? Okay. The build doesn't even make any sense, but okay. And then here we have Horus Kushtira. This guy is actually not playing any Floodgates. Interesting. Because you would normally see a skill drain in these builds. Well, okay. So, next one here. This is just... I don't even know. Another random 60 card deck. This is Centurion. Here. We have some Centurion cards. And Resonator. Centurion, Resonator, I guess. And then we go here. Stun. It's just dead-ass stun again. Okay. And then... Uh, it was this one, right? Yeah, yeah. So if we go back one more... Burn. This isn't stun, at least, so we have that. And then we have this over here, which is just... Tear Lament. Where I braked. Sad. And then this... What was this? Some 60 card pile. This one. Fire King Snake Eye, whatever. But as you can see, just in this recent session, look, this is on the lower end for me, honestly. But like, 4 of the duelists out of like the last 10 are playing stun. Like, bruh. And just in general, like, I'm not playing that many like anti-stun cards in this deck. I just went first, luckily, and that's why those were wins. If I did not, I would have lost because it's done, essentially, right? And then even if I had doubts, I would have to magically manifest them into my hand. But well, I wonder why Phoenix 8 stun could be any reason. And yo, I'll give you guys a hint. Duelist Cup, I played for like, I don't even remember, like more than 10, 20 hours of Duelist Cup. And like 50, 60, 70% or something of those games were just against stun. Yeah, just straight up. So I ended up playing like sometimes I would end up playing like Vanquish Soul with a lot of teched in like anti-stun. And there's also like Ninja, which just performs well under a lot of certain floodgates, so we had those options going for us. And you know what? That only kind of worked because then I just stopped getting stun players, and then I just ended up having to deal with like I don't know, like Ishtira and whatever else was available at the time, which I don't fully remember what it was actually. But yeah, that was not a fun time. And stun in best of one, disgusting. I'm playing this card because it's legal, you know? That's the kind of vibe we have with deck lockdown here. Deck lockdown just by itself, if we consider this. Like, as always, I can just do a test hand, and this one's not it, Chief, but that one was still fine. So we can pros, dig for 6, boop, 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 whatever. Grab. Wait, we still have one more, right? Okay. And we can here, over here, grab rates off, whatever, do our full combo. Well, we'll play around Nib probably, and we also actually have Birth, so... Uh, Depends how we want to play it, but whatever. We do our combo, we end on like Rise Heart. Maybe we do a Rise Heart plus Shangri-Ira, and then I just drop a deck lockdown on top of this. So in this case, I think Ira's only worth making because we have the field spell to then get triggered off of this to do a pop. But anyways, now my opponent has to play under Macrocosmos, Droll and Lockbird, and also they cannot special summon monsters from the main deck. And once again, they're under Macrocosmos. And I am perfectly okay to just completely run over them. If I really wanted to, if if I want to search next turn, I can use the Rise Heart to banish my own copy of deck lockdown. If I really want to, and then draw for the next turn, dead. Whatever, that's fine. And then we have Birth to bring back some guys anyway, so it's probably just lethal, straight up, so. Yeah, just Floodgates. And this is a particularly disgusting one, even if we consider this by itself, without considering, like, what you set up for end board. If we activate Deck Lockdown, the first player that can, actually start special summoning from the main deck and adding cards from the deck to the hand is going to be the person that activated Deck Lockdown. So that's one noticeable, really notable thing about Deck Lockdown. And then that means, like, even if I just raw open Deck Lockdown and I don't have any cards, if I draw, like, playable in the next two, like maybe a Fenrir or a Unicorn, and then I can start, like, running over my opponent's stuff by battle because my guys are bigger, then I get to attempt search with Unicorn before my opponent does anything, and usually you're just breaking out stuff like Theosis and, like, Birth anyways. Also, this deck list I notice hasn't been adjusted since Birth is now 3, but I mean, whatever, it's fine. So, yeah. Just in general, I hate Floodgates, and they're still very strong. So we can kind of do the same thing with Macro as well. And I don't know, I feel like slightly pressured to do this a little bit, like just playing Lockdown and Macro, because of just how efficient they are going first. Sure, they aren't that efficient going second, but in best of one, these cards are just borderline unoutable, depending on exactly what you're playing against. So if my opponent can't, like, it's easier for, like, Snake Eye to do. Like, for example, I could normal summon Snake Eye Ash, and then link off for Link Revo, summon another guy, and then we have enough material for SP. But if we were, for example, playing Yubel, Yubel can't actually get into a Link monster to link off to make SP with, and then, well, it's fairly hard for them. They would have to make Phantom of Yubel, then do a normal summon, I guess, in order to out deck lockdown by making SP on top of, like, Phantom of Yubel plus whatever normal summon they did. And whatever normal summon they did, that monster is going to be, like, kind of lost to an extent, depending on, like, what their hand is exactly, I guess. But that would allow them to out my singular deck lockdown under deck lockdown. So deck lockdown, insanely hard to out. You would more or less need to have something main decked to out this. So just for example, if I just had Imperm plus deck lockdown, then I can just Imperm SP, assuming I control, like, no monsters, right? And then that's just no longer outable, and my opponent probably doesn't have any targets to make in their extra deck that can even remove the lockdown anymore. And then I can just summon, like, pretty much, for the most part, like, any cash name, run over SP, and then my opponent is, like, infinitely worse than me. And we're cruising once again, right? We're just absolutely vibing, we're chilling. And sometimes you're, of course, breaking out, like, Birth. So if I top deck, like, Rise Heart, I can Rise Heart, banish Fenrir, or if we had Prep as well, we could banish Fenrir, summon Fenrir, run over guys, whatever. We're absolutely chilling, and this is just with Cash as an example. There are a lot of other decks. You could technically run deck lockdown, right? And on top of that, deck lockdown, this card in particular, this doesn't necessarily kill every deck, but it affects the majority of decks to the point where they just become unplayable. The only deck I think that doesn't get, like, completely murdered by deck lockdown is, like, Tearlament, but they get murdered by macro, so it doesn't even matter, you know? So I set up a Rise Heart, I set up deck lockdown, we're solid, right? if I just set up macro in the back row, it's actually also worth mentioning a lot harder to out in general than Arise Art. So if I set up like a super heavy Samurai end board and then just slap the macro on top of it, uh, good luck with that chief, or slap deck lockdown on top of that. Pretty toxic, just in general. And even if I can't full combo, like maybe my opponent just drops like a Maxi on me or something, I can just stop with whatever I have. In general, there'll be like a couple of big guys anyways. Drop deck lockdown, my opponent can't make big guys. My big guys win over their small guys, and eventually that generally leads to a win, and I can continue my combo whenever like lockdown is gone, assuming I can't do my combo under lockdown. So yeah, that's just what it is. And I mean, we're kind of rambling and getting a little bit off topic here, but in general, like, I think floodgates should just go for the most part. Like, deck lockdown, I don't see why this is legal at all. Macro Cosmos, I can understand macro because macro isn't as oppressive as lockdown, honestly. The amount of decks that become, like, completely unplayable under lockdown, much higher, in my opinion. And the thing about macro is that there are some decks, like, with how the game is being like, well, with how the new cards are being made and how their design is kind of stupid, we're at the point where we do need some cards like macro. It's otherwise, I don't know what we're supposed to do against these cards. So just for example, if we just look at Samsara D Lotus, normal summon, we can normal summon the Lotus, and then Lotus attempt to activate effect. If Lotus does not resolve, then we can actually later on still use it to make Phantom of Yubel. And also, we can summon this back with a lot of different cards and stuff, right? So that's annoying. If we were to just remove the Lotus before it activates, then this can still be brought back with several cards. So we have the continuous spell that you play with Beckoning Beast, and then we have Muckraker, and then I think there was some other card that brings this back. Is it Gruesome Grave Squirmer? Banish this card from your graveyard, special summon from your hand or graveyard, 0 attack defense, monster. Yeah, so Gruesome Grave Squirmer can bring back the Lotus again, so they also have like essentially 2 effects that you have to deal with. So if we were to just do some basic math here, let's just give Natural Awesome Joe Spring a value of 1. So if we were to do Samsara D Lotus versus Ash Blossom Joe Spring, for example, well, it wouldn't necessarily be Samsara D Lotus, but you know, general idea of if we activate an Ash, our opponent still has another effect on that card, so they can just activate that effect instead. So we're trading only 1 effect, and our opponent has 2 effects here, so Ash Blossom isn't enough. So we kind of do need cards like Shifter to an extent, because some of these hand traps actually aren't strong enough to do anything, like literally anything. They're completely useless no matter when you use them, because if you hold on to the or try to hold on for like the choke point, there is no choke point anymore, because there's no possible way you can activate the hand trap, because your opponent has a negate that doesn't really cost them anything to do. So in the case of Phantom of Yubel, we have a lot of 0 attack and 0 defense fiend monsters, so we also have like a Yubel that we're going to be able to destroy off of Phantom of Yubel, and then Spirit of Yubel has no hard ones return, so we can pop Spirit of Yubel to summon Yubel, and then that completely replaces the Phantom of Yubel you just like kind of removed. So if we just look at it this way, right? Our opponent has Phantom of Yubel, they make Yama, you Ash Yama, they Phantom of Yubel, the Ash Blossom, and then they just make a second Phantom of Yubel and they just keep resolving their effects. But if you Ash earlier, they'll still get to the point where they're able to make these things because they have enough material. So yeah, just in general, it's kind kind of a bit annoying and a bit like overwhelming how many effects these cards do, and yeah, I think we're starting to feel like more and more power creep. I don't know how things will go like in a year or two from now, but it's getting pretty wild. It's come to the point where like Kashtira cards are starting to feel kind of balanced because they kind of feel like they have a restriction, you know, requiring you to control no monsters. Yeah, just thinking about it, like so at some point the Kashtira cards will be like just completely power crept, and they'll be like just all right to the point where we might be able to get like 2 or 3 Fenrir back. And I mean, that's just something to think about, I guess. But for right now, yeah, back row really hard to deal with unless you were going first, and then you just set up your whole thing, right? So if my opponent turn 1 macros me, I'm cooked. If turn 1 I macro my opponent, they're cooked. You know. So the going first player right now is just too much advantage as well. So back row hard to deal with. Turn 1 player too much advantage. Turn 2 needs some like advantages. Like I would like if personally I think like the Kishira cards had like a good thing going kind of here, where if you control no monsters, but if it was something like if your opponent controls more monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. We could use more cards like that, honestly. Like a starter with that type of effect, that would be nice. So those are just my current feelings, and I just kind of want to vent a little bit here. So yeah, I personally don't even really like playing this list in particular. Like I honestly don't hate Cash that much because I mean, a Rise Heart is like such a glass cannon. It is significantly worse than honestly just playing like 3 copies of like Dimensional Fissure and Macro. I think there's a higher consistency if higher consistency if we just run a bunch of copies of Fissure and Macro. Real quick, let's count. 1, 2, 3. Oh, 4. 4. Wait, this isn't a 1 card. 1, 2, 3. Oh, right. So that means we have like 3 1-card combos that essentially make macro, and then we could just instead run 3 copies of macro Cosmos just straight up. So yeah, Kishtira, you could hate a Riser, but just realize that people could just be putting in like 3 copies of macro and Dimensional Fissure, and that's actually more consistent than Kishtira. Like, yeah, that's just how the game is right now, I guess. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys today, and I mean, hopefully the game get like, I guess the game gets a little bit better later on. That's kind of what we're hoping for. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.